icon at the top of your screen. We're asking everyone to be respectful, no disruptive behavior, don't interrupt, no foul language or name calling. We know this is a rowdy crowd. If someone is disruptive, we'll mute you and Nicole will tell you in the chat why, and if it happens a second time, the person will be removed from the meeting. We don't anticipate this happening, but we just wanted to let everybody know. And let me introduce the moderator, Paula Barnes, who's resided in Clallam County for the past 15 years. She is the retired executive director of the North Olympic Library System, supporter and member of Sequim Indivisibles, volunteer with Washington Alliance for Gun Responsibility, member and former vice president of the League of Women Voters of Clallam County. We're pleased that she's agreed to moderate tonight's panel. So I'm going to turn the evening over to you, Paula.
Great, thanks, Dale. And nobody warned me that this was a rowdy group, so I guess I'll go ahead. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here and for being an informed, engaged voter. Let's just start with a very brief acknowledgement of the tribal land on which we rest. The Sequim Good Governance League acknowledge that the lands on which we live and gather are the appropriated homelands of Indigenous people. We want to express our deepest respect to those peoples past and present, including the Ho tribe, the Jamestown Sklallam tribe, the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe, the Makah Indian tribe, the Quileute tribe, the Quinault Indian Nation, for their care of these lands through the generation. Let us learn more about the histories, cultures, and traditions of Indigenous peoples, and let us strengthen our relationships with sovereign tribal nations. So before we get going, I wanted to just say a couple of words about Sequim's council manager form of government. Under the council manager system, the council is responsible for setting policy, and a professional city manager is responsible for running the city. The manager advises the council on policy and budget matters. They direct the daily operations of city government. They administer personnel matters, and they prepare and recommend the budget. The city manager is directly accountable to the council, and the manager can be removed by a majority vote of the council at any time. The idea behind the council manager form of government is to have professional management of the city and to keep politics out of the day-to-day. The other most common form of municipal government is the mayor council system, where the mayor has much more authority. You think Seattle, for example. You can read more about both systems on the, if you're not familiar with MRSC, the Municipal Research and Services Center, that's a great website where you can read more about these two forms of government. So the Sequim, as Dale said before, the Sequim City Council consists of 7 members. All are elected at large, meaning by all the voters within the city limits for 4-year terms. Each year, members of the council elect a fellow council member to be the mayor. The role of mayor in the council management form of government is essentially a ceremonial one. The mayor presides over the council meetings, and they're recognized as the head of the city for ceremonial purposes, but the mayor doesn't really have any official administrative duties. So this year there are 5 council positions up for election. Tonight you'll have the opportunity to hear from the candidates for these 5 positions who are endorsed by SGGL. We'll start with 2-minute opening statements from each of the 5 candidates, and we'll go in the order of the positions that they're running for, starting with Kathy Downer, who's running for position 2, and ending with Lowell Rathbun, who's running for position 6. Then we'll have time for your questions. We have, I think, 12 of them. Hopefully we'll get to all of them, and if we have time, we may be able to take a few more through chat. As Dale said, the questions have been submitted in advance, so I'm going to rotate who gets to answer first, but each candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. They'll have 1.5 minutes for their responses. And so we couldn't get the timer to work. So I'm going to try to run a timer, and I think Dale is going to have a timer going too. And I don't think we have to be really extremely rigid about timing, but I may gently or not so gently interrupt you if you exceed your time limit. After the Q&A period, each candidate will have a minute for a closing statement. And we'll go in reverse order for the closing statement. So we'll start with Lowell running for position 6 and end with Kathy running for position 2. All right, so let's get started with opening statements, and we'll start with Kathy Downer running for position 2. You're up first. You have 2 minutes.
The Sequim City Council is at a crossroads after forcing the resignation of a popular and a very qualified city manager, and then passing a resolution to disregard the mask and the vaccine mandates for the businesses. A city council must act legally, ethically, and within their authority. My name is Kathy Downer, and I'm running for Sequim City Council seat number 2. I'm a retired nurse and a former councilwoman from Marietta, Ohio, where I served 3 two-year terms. While on the council, I was the chairwoman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, and I also served as a member of the Water and Sewer and the Police and Fire Committees. I was the council liaison for other commissions like Stormwater, Traffic, Brick Streets, and the business section, Main Street. As a retired nurse, I respect the work that our county health department and Dr. Barry have done. Sequim is actually dealing with 2 pandemics, the COVID-19 and a pandemic of misinformation. When our council passed a resolution saying that businesses did not have to follow the guidelines of the health department, they were being irresponsible. The same with the misinformation that they spread about the MAC clinic. The anti-mask resolution instead endangers the viability of our downtown businesses. As a member of the Sequim Planning Commission, I know that they are working on, as is our Health and Housing Committee, on addressing the issues of workforce housing. We want council people that stay engaged, answer their emails, and they look for opportunities to help Sequim. Sequim is growing by leaps and by bounds. If our council doesn't address workforce housing, we may lose teachers, policemen, and young families, among other groups. Our local businesses need more broadband, more utilities, and possibly dedicated roads to move their manufactured items. Again, Sequim is at a crossroads. How you vote on November 2nd will determine the future of our quaint and beautiful town. Vote for good governance by voting for Kathy Downer for Sequim City Council, seat number 2. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Vicki Lowe, you're up next, running for position 3. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Vicki Lowe, and I am running for Sequim City Council position number 3. City government should focus on the needs of our community, be transparent in decision-making, and act fiscally responsible. We need solutions that work for our community, and I know this community. I have lived here my entire life. My family has been here for generations. I'm currently on the board of directors for Peninsula Behavioral Health and the City of Sequim Planning Commission. I've been involved with many community committees and boards over my life, including sports, band, family planning, community network, and more. At the state level, I'm a commissioner with the Washington State Women's Commission and co-chair of their health committee. I was recently appointed to the Washington State's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and People Task Force, a task force I worked over a few years to establish. I am also awaiting an appointment to the Universal Healthcare Commission established in the legislative session last winter. I'm a member of the Governor's Indian Health Advisory Board, which I helped to establish under the Washington Indian Health Improvement Act. Through my work at the state level, I am familiar with the Open Public Meetings Act and basics of how governmental meetings should be run. I have never held a government elected position, but I have worked with many elected officials throughout my career. I have the ability to listen, hear, and understand people and their perspectives as important leadership skills. It is important to understand that people have different perspectives based on their life experience, and so our understandings of the world might be different. While the needs of the community might be diverse, solutions can be built from those needs. We need to root out disinformation from our community and focus on what is needed to keep our economy going. Ensure affordable housing for those who are already living here. Increase local access to medical care, such as primary and specialty care, and find harmony between the environment and growth. I am a consensus builder, and I hope that you can vote for me on November 2nd. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vicki. Next up, running for position 4 is Rachel Anderson. Rachel, you have 2 minutes.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Anderson. I have lived in Sequim for almost 3 decades, and I have been extremely involved in the community. I'm Head Start Policy Council chairperson, a member of the Olympic Community Action Programs Board. I'm a board member of Sequim Education Foundation, an appointed city council member, and also the Sequim Farmers and Artisans interim board president. And through mostly Head Start and city council and my work with the farmers market, those 3 jobs have really helped me build my skills as far as analyzing policy and amending policy, which is one of our main roles as city council members. I also want to prioritize building a healthy work environment for our city staff and also prioritize following the law. It's really important. I think that we need to work a bit more on inclusiveness and diversity. And sorry, let me get my note. Oh, that's right. I'm also one of the, I think I might be the only low income city council candidate. And I feel that it's really important for everybody to have a seat at the table, including low income folks and young families. What else? Yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Rachel. Next up, Brandon Janice, running for position 5. You're next, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, so Sequim is a great community, but we're in the midst of change, and I believe that the dedication and involvement that I have shown to the position I am currently in over the last 4 years has been a key asset to the city. I moved here in 1999, and I graduated from Sequim High School in 2003. And probably like a lot of us, I remember when there was really nothing west of Safeway except for grass, you know. And I've lived here for quite a long time. My opponent has barely lived here a year, just barely making that mark. I served my country in the United States military as a military police soldier. I did a tour in Iraq with the 101st Airborne. So I've seen, different socioeconomic statuses between life here in the United States and those in Iraq, even Kuwait. What worked here might not work there. So this has helped me to adapt to those different situations that arise, to look at things in a different light. I work at our county jail as a control technician. And, I see those that have substance and mental abuse, mental health issues, like almost on a daily basis. I'm a foster parent, and, far too often we have actually cared for those children, the individuals that stay in our jail. So I bring that unique experience to the council, which again, it really helps me to drive almost every aspect of my life. I have served on both the Planning Commission and the Clallam County Sheriff's Advisory Board prior to being elected in 2018. I've served on the Finance Committee, been the liaison to the Planning Commission, and served on the Transit Board as an alternate. I have an 8A degree in criminal justice and a bachelor's in political science. And along with Rachel, we are the only 2 that have both a CML and an advanced CML, which is a certificate of municipal leadership, an advanced certificate of municipal leadership from the Association of Washington Cities. So like I said, my public official, law enforcement, and foster parent relationships that have helped shape me on this board. I can set policy that deal with such issues such as homelessness, drug abuse, jobs, mental health, and much more. I'm not retired, so there's a balancing act that I
And
have.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, Brandon. if
Oh
you
yeah, I'm
can.
way past it. Yeah, sorry, even 2 minutes on. I'm not retired, so I have to balance home life, childcare, and council responsibilities all in one. There's times I've worked a 12-hour day to come home to a 4 or 5 hour council session. So, okay, I'll end it there.
Great. And next, running for position 6, Lowell Rathbun. You have 2 minutes. You're up.
Hello, my name is Lowell Rathbun, and I am running for Sequim City Council, position 6. I'm a Montana native. I have spent 25 years in the Pacific Northwest, 4 of those in Sequim. I have gotten a bachelor's of science degree from the University of Portland the hard way, working and raising a family at the same time. Engineers are paid to make things exist that didn't exist before. We have to analyze complex data, we have to work with other staff members, and we have to come up with a solution that actually works. I will bring those skills to our city council. I have firsthand experience with people struggling with addictions, mental illness, and homelessness. I have become aware of and empathetic to their needs and their struggles. I will bring that quality of compassion to our city council also. This is my first shot at running for public office, but I have attended every single city council meeting as much as I can since February of 2020. I sat through the entire examiner hearing for the Matt Clinic. It's hard to pick out 3 issues, but the top issue for me is we need to get together. Let's dispense with political stunts and let's unite to get this dangerous COVID pandemic behind us by wearing masks, getting vaccinated, and complying with mandates. There are a lot of working people in this town. They work really hard for the wages that they get, and we as leaders owe it to them to find them some housing that they can afford. Let's get past the talk and the hand wringing. And finally, there is a big need for human services in this town. We don't hear much about it, but there's an organization called the Sequim Health and Housing Collaborative. They need a headquarters building. I would like to see that happen in my first year. Thank you.
All right, very good. That's it for our opening statements. We're going to move now to the questions. And this time we're going to start with you, Vicki. And then we'll continue in the same rotation. You'll have 90 seconds, that's 1.5 minutes. This first question is about our divided community. The last 2 years have seen more and more division in our community. What suggestions do you have to begin to bring people back together? Vicki, you have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I was on the committee along with some other community members and city staff who brought the community conversations on equity and inclusion to our community, and those were stopped by a consensus vote of the current council. So I would like to see us bring those back. They were well liked by those who attended the 2 events we were able to have, and through the themes that we got from those events, we laid out a plan, and I would like to see us continue to expand and bring more organizations and more people into the conversation about how we get along. Thank you.
Great. Next, Rachel, you're up. Same question, 90 seconds.
It's a pretty short answer. So since being appointed to Sequim City Council, I could clearly see that our community was really divided. And so one of my priorities was to do everything I can to bring people together. We might be extremely divided over some issues, but no matter what, we can always find some common ground. And I think that for the majority of us, a lot of that common ground is how much we love Sequim and how much we want it to continue to grow or continue to be a beautiful place to live. I try my best to role model respect and patience and active listening, which has been pretty much directly translated from my 10 years as a parent and kind of adoptive mom of other people. So, but anyway, actively listening, I think, is the most important one. And listening to understand, not just listening to hear. And I also think that it's really important that we actively build partnerships, not just locally, but regionally, or building partnerships with lobbyists that can voice our concerns on the state and federal level. Thank you.
All right, good. Next, Brandon, same question. You have 90 seconds.
For me, it starts with government. If the local government or even any government, if they don't have their affairs in order, I don't know how it could hope to address the issues in the community. Like Vicky mentioned, doing away with the inclusion conversations, which I think I was the lone vote to not stop them. Things like that, if they're not addressed at that level, the divide between parties on the issues, and everybody's going to have a different issue. That's just the way politics is on things. But those differences, that divide, will continue to grow. It's like the saying says, it takes a village to address a community issue. But if our leaders are not showing leadership, I don't expect how to build a better community. We have ideas that, we have programs like Rally in the Alley, which we have done, that builds a sense of community. Which they have, the dumpsters that they drop off. But we do need to get involved with other causes and activities that people are passionate about, whether it's Habitat for Humanity, Healthy Families, Resilience Project, things that everybody can get behind. But first, like I said, it starts with government and getting ourselves worked out.
Good, thank you. And next, Lowell, same question, 1.5 minutes, please.
Okay, dokie. The first thing I do is start with my own conduct, civil discourse. And I would not engage in character assassination. I would not engage in innuendo, and I would treat everybody in the town with respect. Part of uniting a community, I believe, consists in listening. Let's spend a lot more time listening to one another and less time ranting and telling other people our opinions. I think one of the largest causes of division in our town has been dishonesty on the part of some of our elected officials. I think if our elected officials were honest with the public, this would go a long ways towards healing some of the divisions that we have here. And finally, Charlie Bush proposed an idea. I would like to see some form of dialogue between our citizens in this town so that we can begin to talk to one another and listen to one another in some kind of carefully constructed forum. And just the act of listening to one another, I think, will do a lot to heal the divisions in the city.
Good, thank you, Lowell. And Kathy, you're next, 1.5 minutes, same question.
Thank you. I think a lot of what the other candidates have said, I agree. First of all, you have to model your own behavior to the citizens. You have to keep your camera on during the meetings. You have to not make a face. You have to, or at least take notes. You need to be respectful. You need to dress respectfully at Costco. You need to conduct yourself the way you would like people to relate to you. And I think with the committee that Vicky was on, with the inclusiveness, that was kind of laziness on the city council's part, because they should have taken that on themselves. I don't even think, they had a committee do it for them, and the committee did a great job, but I'm not even sure the majority of council acknowledged it. And that was, I think for them, they were just meeting their criteria. Let's let the citizens do this. I think it really you need to walk the walk and talk the talk. Thank you.
Good. Our next question has to do with experience. Despite the Independent Advisory Association's insistence that their candidates are the only ones with, quote, executive experience, their past candidates have not necessarily had any such experience. To counter that false narrative, can you elaborate on your own experience, whether it be executive, professional, as a volunteer, or any other relevant life experience, and how you think it will serve you in a leadership role on the city council? And for this one, we're going to start with you, Rachel. First, you have 90 seconds.
All right, I was just updating my resume yesterday. So one of my first volunteer jobs started almost 5 years ago with Head Start. I have been working with the Policy Council since then, and the job of the Policy Council is basically the group of parents works together with the executive director and a couple other people on the management team, and we talk about policy and discuss items on agendas, and so it's stuff directly translatable to what we do on the City Council. First, I was the finance chair for Policy Council. I also became a community representative, and then I have been the chairperson, which is kind of like the mayor's role. I run the meetings and all that, and I've been the chairperson for almost 3 years. I've also been a board member of Sequim Education Foundation, which we don't deal a whole lot with policy, but we work really efficiently and collaboratively, which is also something you need to do on City Council. I'm also a part of the Sequim Farmers and Artisans Market. I was recently appointed to be the interim board president, and that came with a whole bunch of other kind of executive type duties. So as far as being board president, that role is new to me, but leadership is not new to me. So thank you so much.
Very good. Next, Brandon, same question, 90 seconds.
Okay, so when I was driving home today from work, I did see their vote for the E-team board up. And if they're going to be the E-team, I think we're the A-team. A for accessibility, A for awesome, and there was one more that I just completely forgot it. A for accessible. Anyway, so I want to say, the last time I checked, the qualifications for the office of city councilor was being 18 and live in the city limits for at least a year. It doesn't include having to have, executive decisions experience. It's a government of the people, not of those that have executive experience. I would vote for an 18-year-old with no experience than a CEO or attorney if they would represent the community better. Maybe, if it was only those for military law experience, executive, maybe that's the reason we're kind of at this level. I think it's a wholly esoteric argument that's being made here. If they want to use that argument that they're running, I really think they're running for the wrong office. If they want to run that, they need to run for mayor in a mayor council form, run for governor, run for president. So I think they're going to be sadly mistaken on how the council really works. The council doesn't manage employees except for the city manager in some regards. They're not managing $250 million funds, and they don't get to order staff around or do jobs that staff does. We have the issues now, and yet again, we're seeing where this has got us. And this is a weak analogy on their part.
Thank you very much. Very good. We'll go next to Kathy. You have 90 seconds.
I think that I'm going to refer to them as the majority on the present council. I think that they would be surprised how much executive experience the 5 of us already have. In addition to being a former councilwoman, I was a charge nurse. I was on the board of a local career center where we used to live, not the board, a board. And I was on a board at a church. But I would need to remind them that the city manager is the executive branch, the city council is the legislative branch, and the city attorney is the judicial branch. And they need to remember that because they do not need to be executors. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Vicky.
Did
90
we miss
seconds.
Lowell? Did we miss Lowell?
Did I miss you, Lowell? I'm so sorry.
I haven't spoken yet.
Go for it. My apologies.
Okey dokey. I kind of agree with Brandon on his statements about what being on the city council is all about. In addition to my engineering, wait a minute, back up a minute. This is my first run at elective office. I did not expect to be here. So it isn't like I can point to a lot of experience in public service. In addition to my engineering experience, where you have to come up with real solutions, I also served on the board of the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and I taught family-to-family classes. So I have that quality of compassion and understanding that I think is a good addition to this city council. In addition to that, since February of last year, I believe I have paid the dues. I have gone to every city council meeting. I have studied the issues. I have immersed myself in the issues of this city. And so I would like to think that when I get on the council, this will not be a brand new start from scratch kind of experience for me. I guess that's all I've got to say.
Great, excellent. Okay, now Vicky, you're up.
Well, the first thing I thought when I heard the idea that we don't have executive experience is that executive is literally the first word in my job title. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit that works statewide. So, but I do agree with Brandon. I think the most important thing we bring to the city is diversity. We're all come from different backgrounds and have different strengths. But I think that, because we know how to work together, that we would be the council who could really bring our community back together and really look at the issues that we're having and come to consensus on moving forward with policy that will help with the housing issue and homeless issues, and help with growth management and all the things. And it's more about who we are as people and the experience that we can bring to this office than any kind of executive experience. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. We're going to move on to the third question, and this has to do with supporting local business. The people behind the Save Our Sequim group have promoted the idea that SGGL-endorsed candidates are anti-local business. We think they're trying to associate this idea with their baseless claims that the Jamestown Sklallam Healing Clinic will be, quote, bussing in homeless junkies, their words, not ours, from Seattle. Can you give us some specific ways you will support local businesses once you're on the Sequim City Council? And we're going to start with Brandon this time. You're each going to have 90 seconds. Brandon, you are up.
Okay, so yeah, this is another one that caught me off. And I think this also has to do with stemming from the voting no on the resolution they just passed. And they're just saying we're anti-business is a logical fallacy that is flawed, deceptive, and blatantly false. They're just reaching at this point. I have voted to support small business relief funds twice. Now, I've been working to get the sign code fixed that all small businesses, particularly in the downtown core, have been fighting with. And it's a big issue, a little bit complicated. We've funded the Small Business Development Center, and I'm working with the EDC on small business development and recruitment down, for the EOAs and downtown core. If we take what the council has done, which we all have done over the last 4 years, and then I would say the entire council is anti-business. And then with that logic, you can see the flaw in their argument. They don't have one. And I think it's just an ad hominem attack at this point. You can have both big and small businesses, because big business in the box stores particularly saved us kind of during COVID. but you need to make sure that, you look at regulations that help out small businesses. We need to get, the bureaucratic red tape out of the way so that way our small businesses can thrive.
Great. Thank you very much. Next up, Lowell, with the same question, and you have 90 seconds.
Okay, my answer might be kind of short. If we're going to support small business, then perhaps we should unite as a community to get this pandemic behind us, which has caused so much disruption to our business. Why are we making this a political football and not just uniting the community and get this over with quickly? And the second thing, if we're going to support business, small business and large business, we need to really get on where are our employees going to live. They really don't have places they can afford. So if we're going to support small business, let's get on the business of getting some housing that they can afford. And finally, the third thing, if you notice the local news story, it looks like there's a carbon sequestration company coming into Port Angeles. We have a lot of forest around here. We used to call it logging. Now we can call it biomass. Let's come up with some new 21st century businesses that will be forward-looking into the future. So, we already see that going on in Grays Harbor over there, down in the lower part of the county. That's it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Kathy, you're up next. You have 90 seconds. Same question.
Thank you. I think our city should continue to work with the small businesses. I do see them doing things for small business. During the pandemic, they allowed restaurants to set tents on the city right away so that they could serve food outside when they didn't have room behind or on the side of the restaurant to actually do that. They make sure that they study the traffic flow downtown. I know we have 2 lanes and a turn lane, but it seems like that 3-block area gets clogged up in the immediate downtown. I feel secure downtown. The businesses seem to close around the same time, so it's well lit. There are always people around when I go down there. I think we need to ask the businesses Brandon probably knows this, but what is the issue with the signage? Is it hanging signs? Is it extra sandwich signs? You have to maintain your pedestrian safety while you're having letting the businesses. You need signage you can see from a car, and you need signage that a pedestrian can see. So all of those we need to ask, what is it that people want? But the city also gave out financial help twice during the COVID pandemic. I can't take any credit for that. I thought it was a great idea. And so I really see the city as already trying to help the businesses. And I wish we could find out what more to do for them and to continue to do what they need to have done so that they're thriving. Because you do not want to close stores in your downtown area, whether or not it's tourist season actually is a business, but you don't want to see closed stores when people are downtown. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Vicki, you're up. The same question about supporting local business. You have 90 seconds.
Well, I grew up in a small business, so I know how hard work it is, and I think it's become harder. I see our city supporting our small businesses, especially through the pandemic. I'm worried that we think this pandemic is going to be over and then we go back to being how we were before the pandemic. I think that there are environmental changes that we need to help our small businesses get through. The big businesses, they have other support for that, but there's going to be issues related to climate change. There will probably be other pandemics. So we can't just pretend that this was a blip and not follow through on taking care of that. I think we also help our small businesses by supporting laws and mandates and doing things that are legal. And it's important that we have a balance between small businesses and large businesses, but we also need to work on housing for the employees who work in those businesses. Thank you.
Very good. Next, Rachel, 90 seconds.
All right. Well, the first thing that came to mind was whoever said that seems to have a serious lack of compassion. You have to be compassionate for the people behind these businesses. You can't just say, yeah, profits are great. You can't just think about the money. You have to think about the people behind the small businesses. If their business goes under, they could become a quote homeless junkie, and the people that they're trying to condemn. Oh no, I'm so sorry. You fell. Here, I'll help you up. Okay, sorry. Anyway, the people that they're trying to condemn are the same people that need the most help. Also, I'm a part of the Sequim Farmers and Artisans Market, which actively supports 60 plus local businesses, small local businesses. I'm also on the Lifeboat 3 grant, actively working to give businesses funds that could help save their business. And lastly, I believe we need to focus on maintaining the businesses that we have now to get through this pandemic, and prioritizing public health is prioritizing small businesses. Thank you.
Very good. Our next question has to do with supporting families, and Lowell, you're going to be first up with this one. The lack of living wage jobs and a lack of affordable housing are two of many things that make it very difficult for young families to prosper in our community. What are your ideas for things the City Council can do to make Sequim a more welcoming, affordable, and vibrant place for families, particularly young families? You have 90 seconds. Lowell, you're up.
Okay, that's a little hard to answer that question in 90 seconds. We've already mentioned getting affordable housing for our workers. Our families are struggling with, these are parents trying to make a living. And a lot of these parents are dual in families. So childcare, I believe, is a very important part of making the workforce environment in this town livable. So I would think, let's pay attention to childcare, providing affordable childcare. And beyond that, there are a lot of people in this town now who really are struggling to even find food or healthcare. So improving the delivery of human services, as the Sequim Health and Housing Collaborative is trying to do, I think would also make our climate for our working people and younger people that much more friendly. Those are the two ideas that I can come up with on the spot.
Great. Kathy, you're next. Same question, 90 seconds.
Well, the city already does support the school system, and that's where the kids are during the day. They have the Safe Routes to School grant, which improves pedestrian safety and accessibility to the grade schools. They built the soccer fields and things like that that the school uses. But I wish a city council had control over the housing, or had control over raising the minimum wage. We don't, but we can encourage the legislators at the state level and the federal level to do that. Other areas have done it and they did not go broke. So can you imagine, when I first got married, I won't tell you what year, rent was $125 a month and a turkey pot pie was 25 cents. I mean, I can't imagine making minimum wage now, like some of my kids do, and buying car insurance for a beater car, paying for daycare, buying groceries, getting a prescription. You miss one day of work and you're off, your paycheck is off. You pay for one prescription and that puts you behind. People, I don't know how they do it without getting very, very discouraged. And I think that the city council can collaborate with a county agency or a state agency to come up with some support for people. We've all been there. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, Vicki, same question, 90 seconds.
I think the city is already doing things, and maybe we're not aware of it. The Sequim Health and Housing Collaborative was brought together by the former council. I agree with Lowell that we need to really support them because they have come up with recommendations. that the city has mostly followed. There's one they didn't follow that I still can't understand. Kathy and I are on the Planning Commission together. There's been some policy changes to loosen up some of the building in infill properties, so properties that haven't been developed, and also the auxiliary dwelling unit ADU policies for helping for more rentals. And then we recently have been started talking about a home sharing program and working with this Sequim Health and Housing Collaborative for a formal process to help people sharing homes. I think that working on the housing problem will help solve a lot of the other problems, but childcare is also very important. The Head Start program that Rachel works with is a very important part of our community. And I really think that we also need to work on primary care, because we also don't have places for our families to go and get primary medical care. Thank you.
All right, good. Nice segue, Rachel, to you. You're next, 90 seconds. Your ideas for making Sequim more welcoming and affordable for families, particularly young families. 90 seconds.
Alrighty, story time. So my family and I, we have lived in the same apartment for almost 11 years. We pay $886 a month for rent, and we brought home, I think, less than $10,000 last year, and we're raising 3 children. So my husband is oh my gosh, really? My husband is a federal work study and up at the college, and I am at home. I'm a stay-at-home mother, and I also volunteer work for 4 different organizations, and I don't get paid for any of that. I volunteer because, I mean, it is great work. I volunteer because it's great work, but I wanted to highlight the fact that if I got paid for any of that, my family and I would no longer have food stamps. We would no longer have medical. We would be in debt to be able to afford food and health care. We would, if my husband and I were both working full-time somewhere else, we would have to pay for childcare out of pocket. So basically, in the system that we have going, you get a leg up and you're kind of knocked back 2 or 3 or 5 rungs back down the ladder. I think this is really a systemic issue. If we could lower rent while increasing wages, that would be really great. And I think that's something that we can lobby for on the state and federal level. And also being able to collaborate and partnerships with local agencies, I think could really help young families. You know, just off the top of my head, we have Head Start, we have First Steps, which are really, really great agencies that are out there trying to help young families make it in this crazy capitalistic centric world. Thank you.
Right, excellent, great. Brandon, you're next, 90 seconds with the same question.
I'd like to echo what Lowell said about childcare. You know, being foster parents, we have a little bit more restrictions on how non-licensed foster parents can care for foster children. So if it wasn't for the Boys and Girls Club, it would have been very difficult for us. And I couldn't imagine what it'd be like, and it probably still is, for single moms, working parents. So that's definitely something that we can help address. And like Kathy said, some things are only to be dealt with at the state and federal level, because that's where they reside at. But I think what we need to do, and we've heard it either on the council or in different avenues, is the teachers and the hospital workers. So I think, it's the city's in their fundamental interest to make sure that both of those succeed. And I think while we don't run the hospital or schools, we can still partner with them and use the tools that we have under RCW to provide, at minimum, transition housing, in a sense, for these individuals. Because no matter who it is, if you're looking at a city and it has poor healthcare and poor schools, you may choose somewhere else to live. We have great doctors and teachers, but sometimes the facilities need to be addressed as well.
All right, excellent. We're going to move on to the fifth question, and we're going to start with Kathy this time. Try this one on for size within 90 seconds. Are there any actions taken by the Sequim City Council in the last year that you would undo? And if so, why? And Kathy, you are up. Let's see.
I am ready.
You're up
I
first.
think the first thing, if we had a different majority on council, that we could appoint a new mayor, somebody who would be progressive and really receptive to what the citizens wanted and the citizens needed, and not have some critical thinking skills and not believe in conspiracy theories. I think that we could also disregard, undo, hide the resolution that gave people permission, or thought people thought they had permission to not wear masks and not get vaccinated. And what it did was really confuse everybody. You know, a city council should go to the county health department and say, this is a health emergency, by the way, worldwide health emergency. What can we do? Not how can we sabotage it? You know, the businesses will bounce back faster. More people will live if we follow the mandates and set good examples and encourage people to follow the mandates. But there's not much you can do about to change people's ideas. I'm shocked at some of the things people believe. And that's the first two things I would participate in.
Good.
Thank you.
Mhm. Vicky, you're next. Same question, 90 seconds.
I think some of the things that have been done are difficult to undo. I wish they hadn't fired. I feel funny saying this because, you know, Brandon and Rachel are here. Rachel wasn't even on the council, but it's the majority of the four. Firing the city manager, who was, as far as I've heard, one of the top 5 city managers in the state. So now we don't have that. So what can we do to fix that? I think this new city manager is going to have his feet held to the fire to make sure that he holds up the wage that he is getting and does, you know, the work that helps bring our city back to working together. I would definitely reinstate the community conversations on equity and inclusion. I don't know how much we can undo, but I think we really need to move forward, put some stuff behind us and stop being divisive and start really working together as a community to make Sequim the Sequim that it has always been. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Rachel, you're next. Same question, 90 seconds.
All right, so just off the top of my head, I can think of a couple actions that I would undo, a few of them being some of the appointments on city council. I think that if people that were more compassionate and more actively responsive, I think it would have been beneficial for the city and the city council. I think passing the resolution was extremely confusing, not only for businesses, but for citizens too. And condemning health orders from the Department of Health just because you don't like them is not conducive to keeping people safe. And I think that's what we need to prioritize as a city, is keeping people safe and keeping businesses open. But I do want to say too that I agree with Vicky a lot when she said that we need to kind of get past some things and look forward to the future. I'm really hoping that we can turn over a new leaf as a city and turn over a new leaf with our leadership, because I feel like for us to get past things, we need to come together as a community. And I feel like we can better do that when we're able to work more effectively together. Thank you.
Did we lose Paula? Dale?
We may have. Let me take a look and see if she's coming back in.
Yep.
Okay, Paula just lost her video,
Ah, okay.
so I agreed to jump in. So I'm a familiar face, and to the viewers, I'm Candace Pratt, and I'm a member of the Sequim Good Governance League and a member of the League of Women Voters. So we'll just continue now with Brandon. It's your turn.
And I'm back, Candace.
Oh, there we go.
But go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So I can sit there and say, like a lot of people have mentioned before, whether it's the resolution about the health mandate or stopping the community equity talks. But I would have to agree with Vicky on one about terminating Charlie. And I've said all along, you know, such is the nature of politics that me and Charlie didn't agree on things. And I don't think anybody would expect everybody to think the same, but it was always civil. We always shook hands at the end, and we knew what roles we played in the city. And there was nothing that left that council meeting that was ill-willed. So, you know, regardless of what type of government structure I may like Vicky said, one of the top 5 city managers that frankly was the leader of getting Sequim through the pandemic to where we are now. And I think without his leadership, we might not be in the same fiscal and, you know, overall community shape that we're in. But something else that's hard to talk about because due to executive session would be some of the decisions that have ended up getting us in hot water with our risk pool about potential litigation. Like I said, it's hard to get specific because of executive session, but to keep ourselves out of that hot water.
All right, excellent. Sorry about that. I lost internet for a moment. I think I'm back. I'm just not pinned, but I'm up there in the little row of windows somewhere. And I think we're up next with Lowell, is that right? For the same question on city council actions. You have 90 seconds.
Okay, 5 things came to mind as I'm listening to everybody else here. 2 of them have already been mentioned, so I won't dwell on it too much. I really objected to the firing of Charlie Bush. He sat with the out there in the cold trying to figure out what it was like to be homeless. That made a big impression with me. The second thing is the unfortunate resolution. I opposed it from the beginning. It's a very bad political stunt. But there are 3 other items. One of them is the decision by the city council to put the money from the revenues from HB 1406. This is money that was given to us by the state to provide housing for, and that decision was to put that money in the bank for 4 years. I think it should be working for us now. Let's see, I also agree. I think the city should stay in the business of the community conversations on race, equity, and inclusion. There is racism in the city. I think our city would do well to be involved in some way to talking about and overcoming our racism. And the last thing that hasn't been mentioned by anybody, and that is in the city council advance. I believe this is the policy document for the city council. Any mention of climate change has been dropped from that. And I think the city needs to get back to addressing climate change, reducing carbon emissions, and coming up with a resilient plan for extreme weather events. And that's what I have to say.
Great, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next question now, and maybe Dale and Nicole and Candace, I'll ask you as we're closing in on what, 6:35 or thereabouts. If there are remaining questions that you want me to prioritize, let me know. You can let me know through the chat if you want, or just shout it out. But I'm going to move on to question 6 at this point, which is about healthcare. A common talking, and the first person up is going to be Vicky, just so you have a heads up that you're the first one this time. A common talking point from your opposition is that they would like to see a new emergency room with an attached heliport in Sequim. While this sounds appealing, leadership at OMC has pointed out that such an idea is unaffordable, and Washington would probably not approve a certificate of need because of Sequim's proximity to the ER in Port Angeles. Do you have any practical and doable ideas that the City Council could implement to improve the health of Sequim residents and address unmet healthcare needs? So we're going to start this time with Vicky. You have 90 seconds and only 90 seconds to answer that meaty question.
I would say if someone thinks we need a helicopter pad, then they should drive over to Fifth Avenue in front of the Jamestown Family Health Clinic and tell me what that is that's there. And so if you don't know those simple things about our city, you don't understand healthcare at all. I've worked in healthcare for 25 years. What we need is access to primary care, and we need to listen to OMC. They know if we don't have enough emergency cases to run 2 emergency rooms, we're going to end up with people standing around and wasting resources. We need to make sure that people are having access to primary care, which means we need to fix the housing issue so that when people can come here and work in doctor's offices and for the hospital, that they actually have a place to live and stay that's affordable. So that's what I would say to that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And next up, Rachel, same question. You have 90 seconds.
Mine's really short. So it's really interesting when I hear the talk of having a new ER in Sequim, because like you had mentioned, you just can't. The Washington won't approve that because we're so close to the ER in Port Angeles. That's what we can't do. But what we can do is make sure that we have more housing here so that we can bring in more doctors, more nurses, and I think especially more specialty clinics and more specialty doctors. Like, for instance, my husband, he's already had a hip replacement. I think it was at like 25 when he had a hip replacement, and he was able to do that in Sequim, but now his other hip needs to be replaced. And there's something happened with the orthopedic stuff here, and they couldn't do it here anymore. So they had to send him to Silverdale. And while it's not extremely inconvenient with my 3 children at home 24/7, it would be nice to be able to bring my husband somewhere in Sequim to be able to deal with all of his orthopedic stuff. So thank you so much.
All right, good, thank you. Next, Brandon, same question.
Okay, as I've said before, and everybody's probably going to mention that, it's definitely housing. And I think that there is something we can do with 1406, the concept of land trusts, and any partnership with OMC to build transitional housing, whether it's some tiny homes, like I said, just until somebody can move here, until they find a more permanent place to stay. As with, I mean, everybody would like an ER emergency room, but again, like everybody's mentioned, it's the practicality and the legality of it. And OMC, said they're going to look at it, but it's in there, I think, 10 to 20 year plan. But one thing we can do also is work with our state and national leaders to help. And I don't know if it's been addressed yet, but the reimbursement issue with the rural hospitals, because I know there's a couple big projects that OMC would like to have done in Sequim, but they had to cancel it because of those reimbursement issues. continue working with, say, like the tribe to help with maybe if they wanted to expand their facilities or other partners. And I think making sure that we have the infrastructure and zoning for specialty medical companies. I think that there can be a good partnership between OMC and private, whether it's labs or something like that, to just increase the health knowledge just overall.
Great, thank you very much. Lowell, you're next. Same question, 90 seconds.
Well, Brandon took away two of my talking points that I had written down here. First of all, I remember carrying a petition around in my neighborhood from the OMC asking for the Trump administration to not stop Medicare reimbursements, because OMC had been planning on a large expansion to the clinics here in town. The next thing is, if people would be looking, there is an actual insurance policy that you can get that pays for helicopter transport in medical emergencies. So I think that helicopter business is already in place. And like Brandon, he's already mentioned it. I believe there's been a newspaper article and that OMC is already working on long-term plan to provide more emergency medical care services here. And I think they're on it. Let's support them and let them bring that service here to the city. Maybe affordable housing for the workers that are going to have to staff that facility is another way of supporting it.
Great, all right, Kathy, you're up. 90 seconds, same question.
Okay, we already have a very good medical care here. My husband and I were warned ahead of time as soon as we got here to get on a waiting list to get a primary care physician. So we did. We didn't have any problem. Our youngest son did. But that being said, because we are in between two emergency rooms, Port Townsend and Port Angeles, we do not meet Medicare criteria. And if your building cannot get Medicare criteria, you can't bill. And if you can't bill, you very, very soon go broke. A lot of insurance companies use Medicare criteria as their basis for becoming, allowing providers to give care and get reimbursement. So that's the issue, really. And I know that OMC is working on it. It's going to be a while, but I think that we can do whatever else needs to be done. I mean, it's 20 minutes to drive in an ambulance to Port Angeles. And they can go fast and they can go above the speed limit. I myself was helicoptered twice with my last two kids in labor, and the nearest teaching hospital was 2.5 hours away, and it only took 35 minutes. So obviously, if we flew the helicopter to Port Angeles or Port Townsend, it would be very, very quick. If we flew there in an ambulance on the ground and broke some speed laws, you would be there very, very soon. Plus, they're in contact with your destination over the radio, and they are ready for you when you get there. So I think that we are lucky to live where we do live, because where I used to live, we had the only hospital for 3 counties. Thank you.
All right, very good. We have time, I think, for one more question before we move to the closing remarks. And Kathy, you're going to be up. No, excuse me, Rachel, you're going to be up first with this question. And we've been talking about the issue of homelessness, and this question addresses that as well. Many cities and counties across the country are tackling the issue of homelessness by identifying individuals and families who are at risk of becoming unhoused and providing prevention and early intervention services before they become homeless. What ideas do you have to help at-risk individuals and families avoid losing their stable housing? And Rachel, we're going to start with you. You have 90 seconds.
I'm sorry, could you repeat it one more time?
Yes. Many cities and counties across the country are tackling the issue of homelessness by identifying individuals and families who are at risk of becoming unhoused and providing prevention and early intervention before they become homeless. Do you have any ideas for helping at-risk individuals and families before they lose or to avoid losing their stable housing? Does that make sense? And Rachel, you're up and you're muted.
There we go. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had it written down correctly. So ideas for at-risk families, I think that when we are able to work together, as in like being able to partner a few different agencies or several different agencies together, like the Sequim Health and Housing Collaborative, we are better able to tackle relatively any kind of issue that could come up for at-risk families. For instance, if people need, resources for housing, you can contact the Serenity House or other agencies to try and get either like a grant or like a Section 8 voucher to be able to afford housing. They've also gotten some more grants in case anybody needs to apply. Please apply for rental assistance if you need it. There's also programs like the utility assistance program called LIHEAP at OLICAP. You can apply for that if you need utility assistance. I think it's really important too to remember that it's okay to ask for help, and it shouldn't be like a taboo if you need help. So I think being able to talk to people and be really supportive and let them know that it's okay to ask for help and we're just there to make sure they don't lose their housing or make sure that they have everything they need is extremely important. Being able to offer wraparound services is going to be really phenomenal for a lot of families. I've been able to work with Head Start, and that's one of the things we do is get people in contact with any kind of services they might need. So being able to do anything, any kind of preventative measure to be able to make sure people have housing and people have everything they need is not only going to affect the families as a whole, but it will also make sure that those kids are better able to grow up happy and healthy. Thank you.
Good. And Brandon, you're next. Same question, 90 seconds.
So your question was pretty much my answer on making sure that we are proactive and not reactive in these senses. I think one thing that the city can do at least is support those institutions. Like we've said it plenty of times today, hospitals and schools and organizations such as like Healthy Families that can address these needs before they happen. You need to make sure that the community is able to have robust options to address those issues such as mental health, drug addiction, employment assistance, housing assistance, and work towards reducing or removing barriers for organizations that need to fill those positions to meet those needs. As foster parents, you always see and hear about kids that continually age out of the system once they turn 18 just to become homeless. So, we try our hardest to make sure that we can address mental health, substance abuse before that time comes. We can talk about making sure, because a lot of times some people that deal with, like Rachel said, not wanting to ask for help, sometimes if they end up in the foster system, it continues a cycle. So I think being proactive and making sure that we can have everything that we need to make sure our community is well suited.
Good. Thank you. Next, Lowell, same question, 90 seconds.
I'll just add 2 points to the discussion that I haven't heard so far. First of all, I've been sitting in on the meetings of Coffee with Colleen, and I've become aware at one of the meetings that there is a lot of federal voucher money that is available, but it is not getting to the people who need to get to it. So I think that we need to work pretty hard on getting that flow of money loosened up and going. Part of it is the people who apply for that aid really need help to make their applications intelligently. The second thing I would like to see is, why don't we find out how many people in this town who really are housing challenged or in danger of losing their housing? Let's find out who these people are. I've heard from in one of the city council meetings, one of the nice ladies at the Sequim Housing and Health and Housing Collaborative says she's starting to discover that people are beginning to come forward. They have been reluctant to reveal their need. And now that they're beginning to trust SHHC, they're starting to come forward and present their needs to the public. So let's continue that. I would really like us to make an effort to actually put a number on the number of people who need help and what kind of help. That's it for me.
Good, thank you. Kathy, you're next.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think if the question really is catching people before they become homeless, sometimes people think it's degrading to ask for help and to ask for services, or they're embarrassed, or they still look nice because their clothes haven't worn out yet. If you have two different groups of people, you have one person who just got laid off, or both parents got laid off, they lost their job, they lost their housing, and you have versus someone who's been homeless for a long time, you put both of them into empty apartments, they have to have wraparound services. The family who just lost their jobs are going to respond a lot quicker, get back on their feet a lot quicker than somebody who has been homeless for a long time. Because the homeless person, you have to find out why they're homeless. Do they have mental health issues? What do they need to get back on their feet? Do they need to get their GED? Do they need job training? Do they have to address their addiction or their mental health problems? So I really think that we need to work on people getting emergency money for their mortgages and their rents. And if it's a homeowner that needs help, if they get a grant for help with their mortgage or help fixing up their house, when they sell that house, and they can pay that money back into the grant fund, and the city will be ahead because of it. Because I really think people need to feel safe. When people have safe housing, their kids feel safe in school, they know that they're going to have at least 2 meals a day or whatever, then they feel so much more like contributing to the town, because they're not focusing 100% of their energy on getting through each day with eating and where am I going to sleep tonight. And I'm talking about teenagers that are couch surfing, or college kids that drop out of college. I mean, there's such a, and when Vicki shared that information with the Planning Commission, to find out when they told us that the largest population of newly homeless people are widowed women, single women over the age of 70, because they can't survive on their own Social Security. I was shocked. I really was. Thank you.
All right. And next, Vicki, same question. 90 seconds.
You just have to agree with everything you just heard. And I just want to add that, and I think several people were getting to this, that we need to deal with stigma. And we have had a lot of issues with stigma in this town, especially for the last 2 years. And you know, people pay taxes, and sometimes you get your tax money back by applying for programs that help you when you need them. We need to make sure that we're taking down barriers when people are getting help. There needs to be plain language in applications. People need to understand, be able to have somebody that they trust to help them with an application and understand what they're agreeing to. I saw a show the other day where a lady was had left an abusive husband, and she went to fill out a piece of paper or a bunch of applications, and in her head they were playing like the bubble in her head. It just said legal stuff, legal stuff, legal stuff, legal stuff, and that doesn't help people. So we need to break down barriers, and we need to work on stigma. Thank you.
All right. Since we started a little bit late, we're going to squeeze in one more question. Brandon, you're going to start. This is a lightning round. You're only going to have 30 seconds. the question is, and then we'll move into the closing statements of 1 minute each. But your lightning round question is, what is the one most important thing the audience can do in the next 28 days to help you get elected? Brandon, you're first. You have 30 seconds. Go.
The biggest thing is to inform others, friends, family, neighbors, that what the future will be if we don't have a change in council. We will continue for the next 4 years as we are now, and divisive, and probably even more if we all lose. They need to make it clear what's at stake in this election. That if they want to go, back to good governance, they need to vote for us 5.
Good. All right, Lowell, you're next.
I'm going to be shameless with my answer. We need troops on the ground. Get in touch with Chris Walker, who I believe is in this audience, and volunteer to go knock doors for our campaign.
So if Chris, you can put your contact information in the chat, maybe if you're in the audience, that would be helpful. We'll move next to Kathy. 30 seconds. What's the most important thing members of the audience can do to get you
Okay,
elected?
ready, set, go. Election day is November 2nd. So each person who is listening to me, find 2 people to register to vote. Someone who just turned 18 or will turn 18 by November 2nd, a new citizen to the United States, or someone who just moved to the area and needs to re-register to vote. So you can register to vote until October 25th online, or you can register in person at the auditor's office by 8 p.m. on November 2nd. So again, November 2nd, everybody listening, find 2 people to register to vote. Thank you.
Excellent. Rachel, you're next. 30 seconds.
Okay.
So I think Vicky's next.
All right, night.
Sorry, Vicky. Didn't I miss you once before?
Well, we
Vicky?
work together.
Boy, what a team. Is this
Mhm.
not a demonstration of teamwork? Vicky, go ahead.
Quickly, I agree with Brandon and Kathy. Talk to your friends who live in the city limits, make sure that they're registered to vote. They can check how to register, that they're registered to vote, write letters to the editor of both newspapers, and vote by November 2nd for this group of 5 if you want to see a new city council majority. Thank you.
Great. Now, Rachel.
Alrighty, so I think word of mouth is going to be our best bet. Tell everybody that you want to vote for us. Talk about how we are experienced and how we are compassionate, and we are committed, and we are extremely community oriented, and we just want to do everything we can to show that Sequim can be led with good governance values again. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, we're going to move into closing statements now. Each candidate is going to have 1 minute to wrap up, and we're going to go in reverse order by position. The opening statements, we started with position 2. This time we're going to start with Lowell in position 6. You have 1 minute for your closing statement. You may proceed.
Okay, the clock is my enemy here. We have 3 members of our city council who were elected unopposed. We have 4 other members who were appointed. Is this representative democracy? We need to unite as a community to fight COVID-19 and get this pandemic behind us. The science and the facts are clear. There's no dispute there. Let's get vaccinated. Let's wear masks. Let's comply with the mandates. Let's get this COVID thing and this threat to public safety behind us. And the last thing, let's put an end to bad governance. Let's not be firing city staff without explanation. Let's be done with conspiracy theories, obscene t-shirts, and resolutions that are political stunts. Let's get together. We have a lot of business to take care of as a city council. Let's get to the business of what city council should be doing, taking care of real problems for real people. So I would like your vote in November. Thank you very much.
Great. Next, running for position 5. Brandon, you're next, 1 minute.
Okay. Oops, I started my clock here. So as I mentioned in my opening statement, Sequim's a great community, but in the midst of change. So we definitely need responsive leadership to navigate that challenge. And all 5 of us here check that off. I have not been swayed by partisan politics, because council members must be nonpartisan. And I've remained committed to a city government that is efficient, effective, responsible, and transparent. I ask for your vote on November 2nd and encourage voters to contact me through email, Facebook, or phone. And I finally remembered the A-Team acronym. So it's A for accountability, A for accessibility, A for action, and A for awesomeness. So vote A-Team, not E-Team.
That's great. All right. Candidate for position 4, Rachel Anderson, you're up.
All right, I'm going to talk really fast. So having a seat for low income and young families is extremely critical to have at the table of local government. We also need to prioritize inclusiveness and diversity and public safety. We need to talk about housing and small business sustainability while finding compromises and common goals. We need to be respectful and actively listen to each other, be patient. We need to do everything we can to support city staff. We all need to make informed decisions for the majority of people, not the vocal minority. We need to role model coming together and finding common ground, and role model safe spaces for honest and open conversation. And last but not least, if you need any yard signs or car magnets, let me know. Thank you.
Very good. Next, Vicki Lowe, running for position 3, you're up.
The balance between providing governmental programs and services with funding is something that needs constant attention. The city of Sequim has knowledgeable and professional staff. We need a council to support the work that they do. I hope you saw tonight what it can look like to have us 5 working together. We need to bring, we need to make sure we don't have made up issues with knee-jerk reactions, that we need to really think about the root causes of what is happening in our city. We've got a lot of good things going on. We can fix the things that need to be fixed, but we need to really actually focus on what is the cause and work on solutions. We're the people that can do that. We can work together. We respect staff, follow laws, listen to experts, and follow science. And I think that's important. I hope you will be voting for all 5 of us by November 2nd. Thank you.
Excellent. And running for position 2, Kathy Downer, you're next.
When you see social injustices, what do? You act. When you see a lack of transparency, what do? You vote. And when you see a very qualified city manager forced to resign, what do? You run for city council. The council that you elect will be your new voice, and you need to choose candidates that will be good stewards of the city's money and also strive to represent you. Good governance empowers citizens. It doesn't silence them. Vote for candidates that will listen to you. Vote for Kathy Downer before November 2nd. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, candidates, for your willingness to run for office, particularly in these very polarized times. Thanks, SGGL, for giving me the opportunity to be part of this event, and for all you're doing on behalf of principled, transparent local government. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Dale. I guess I should also say thanks, audience, for letting us go over time a little bit, because I think this was really useful to take a few extra minutes. Back over to you, Dale. Thanks.
Thank you. Bravo to Lowell, Kathy, Vicki, Rachel, and Brandon, and Paula. Great job, everybody. Hey, I have a Where's Waldo question for everybody. Later this week, there's going to be 3 4-foot by 8-foot signs popping up around town that list all 5 of our candidates that we've endorsed, asking folks to vote for them. And if you see any of those signs, please tell a friend to keep a lookout. Note where they are and tell a friend to keep a lookout for them. Thanks, everybody. That will conclude our forum. Have a great rest of your evening and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.